we are here this evening to talk about abundance and the many faces of abundance. How do we get to an abundant mindset? And how do we keep it? And what kind of supports can we use? So, we're going to have a great conversation with my dear friend, Cheri Hester, who is the gorgeous blonde. And she is someone who I've known for a long time, 40 something years. And I just love her very, very much. Uh, I'm going to talk a little bit about how I met Cheri, but first I just want to give her a chance to say hi.
Hi. Hello, everyone. It is such an honor to be here with you all tonight. And I'm so grateful and thankful that Hope invited me. So I look forward to getting to know you a little bit better as the evening goes along. And I'm just really glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
So you all just witnessed that big smile, that big smile. That's so now I'm going to tell you how I met Cheri. So back in the day, a long time ago, I went to graduate school at Northwestern and I was in theater. I was going to be, I wanted to be a director. So I was in the acting slash directing program, getting my master's. And I saw that they were having auditions for the fall annual musical, which was a freaking big deal at Northwestern with a very big budget and a very big stage and a very big audience. And, tickets would sell out every year. I mean, it was a massive thing. I didn't know that at the time. I just thought, oh, they're doing a musical. I should probably try out. And so I went. And after the first night, four of us were up for the lead. I was up for the lead. Cheri was up for the lead, a mutual friend, and then another girl who I didn't know. But I didn't know anybody yet. So I come back to callbacks, and we're in this underground green room kind of place. And I just tucked myself away in a corner because I was 25 at the time. And, everybody else was, they were young college kids. And so there was a lot of energy in the room, and I just needed to go and kind of be quiet. So I was looking down at the floor, kind of going over my song in my mind. And the next thing I know, I see 4 feet, two pairs of feet in front where my eyes were looking down. And I look up and I see these two faces with these smiles, with just hi, they say to me. And I'd been out, I'd lived in New York, I'd lived in San Francisco, I'd been traveling all over the place. Like I was, not used to such exuberance, shall I say. And these two brilliant smiles and cheerful hellos. And that was Cheri and our other mutual friend. Well, and they wanted to introduce themselves to me because they were so sweet. And they said, "Oh, you must be, the other girl who's up for the part." And I said, "Oh, yeah, I guess I am." Whatever. So we go. We have the call back. Then we all four get called back again. Then we all four get called back again. 4 callbacks. And after the last one, I think we were all a little irritated. And the three of us decided to go out afterwards and have like a 10 o'clock meal, which you can do when you're in college. So we loaded up our salad bar plates and sat down at this booth. And these two sat across the booth from me. And they were saying things like, "Oh, don't worry, you have plenty of years ahead of you to get a part in this show. They do one every year. These girls were seniors, and you're going to be just fine. You look how far you got on your first try." So I realize they think I'm a freshman because they've never seen me before. And so the only obvious thing is that they think I'm a freshman. And then I start to get a little, uh-oh, how am I going to break it to them without I didn't want to crush their spirit. It's like, oh God, I don't remember exactly what I said, but like, girls, I'm 25, you know? And then we all, their faces fell, and then we all had the biggest laugh and we became fast friends. So that is how I met Miss Sherry. And we have been friends through thick and thin ever since. And many different, many different, you know, pieces of our journey. And I'm really grateful that we're still in life together. My son was actually at school in Savannah for a couple of years, and thank goodness Sherry and Biller were there. There were times when he was in the hospital. There were times, and thank goodness, they were there, and I also got to go down to Savannah and see them. So it was a win-win. Um, so what I'd like to do now is have Sherry talk to us a little bit about the topic of the evening, and how Sherry's journey has taken her really on a very wide arc. And so, Sher, if you would just talk a little bit about your life before, and then what happened.
Okay, thank you, Hope. And I remember that moment exactly as you just described it. She still looks younger than me. So I mean, no wonder we
No.
thought she was a freshman. She's like, right? Like crazy. Okay, so this has been an evolution for me. So I'm just going to share a little bit about myself. Um all I would call myself positive Patty, right? That's how I always was. Like even as a youngster, it was really obnoxious actually, but I was that. So I'm coming from that place, which is actually interesting because if you would have asked me back then if I felt like I was living an abundant life, or I believed in abundance for all, I would say, oh, yes. Oh, for sure. Right. Because, yeah, everything's happy. What I didn't realize until it's probably been about 5 years now, um, that I started a personal development journey where I feel like I've just evolved to a totally different place. Was that there's a difference between positive thinking and living an abundant life and knowing that you are called and you are totally capable of and fully functioning and fully prepared for an abundant life. We were created that way. And I think I I would call myself back in the day a realist, right? And so my reality was whatever was in front of me. It was very, very much geared to, the here and now. And whatever, I look at my bank account, that is my reality. That is totally my reality right now. And when Hope and I were talking about this, the stories just started evolving in my head. I remember I actually owe so much of my evolvement to Hope, and I didn't even know that. But you know how things just come into your life, and they're there for a reason, and they get stacked, right? There's a whole evolvement that happens, and I wasn't even aware that it was happening. So, Hope and our mutual friend would call, and they were living in the same place, and I was the person that was far away, and they'd want me to come visit, and all this, and I was like, oh, I'd love to, but I just can't. I can't. I have no money. I have no time, right? Looking very much into what was real. And this must have been like 15 years ago, right? Hope. I mean, it was like a while ago. And at that point, and I don't she was so kind. I don't remember the words that were used, but she basically was calling me out on having a poverty mentality, a scarcity mentality. And I was like, yeah, right. Right. You just don't know. You just don't know my reality. And so to me, that was where I was for most of my life, just living in that reality of whatever is in front of me is the real deal. And I've got to tell you that my transition came when I started, uh, becoming involved with Young Living essential oils. And it just so happens that any of you guys that are involved in network marketing, or even just you're an entrepreneur in any way, you know that you must evolve. There's so much personal development that comes along with the job, right? You have to keep growing or else your business won't grow. So the personal development actually came hand in hand when I started doing my own business. And I specifically came into a coaching program with a woman that was blowing my socks off. When I first heard her talking, she really reminded me of Hope a lot, but in the way she talked. But it was all this higher level thinking, right? Like stuff that I was like, whoa, 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 what are you saying here? And I I the thing was, it resonated. It totally resonated on a totally different level, but my human form kept fighting it for a while. I was like, but that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. I don't understand. And finally, I just did the work. I was determined to figure out if I was going to go there or if it wasn't for me, because I had to make it. I was at a crossroads, and it was I did a lot of research, and I that's one thing that I feel very passionately about. I have a bunch of books on the floor here because I was going to mention them to you, but just because for me, every single day I do personal development, and that has been so key to my evolvement. I read, I listen to podcasts. There's something that I feed my soul every day with. And the transition for me, so I just want to be clear, the transition for me was realizing that there's so much more that okay, getting a little emotional, that we more than we can see, right? There's so much more available to us, so much more power, so much more abundance than is tangible right now. And when we can tap into that source and that level of thinking, that higher level, and I really do believe it's an awareness. It's not that anyone is any better than anyone else. It's just like, I mean, all of you, obviously, I know, because I know that you love Hopi and you follow her. You all are already there. You're in this higher level of awareness, and it just keeps evolving. And so that to me was huge. The way that I view life now is totally different. One of my favorite quotes is see in truth regardless of appearances. See in truth regardless of appearances. And I say that to myself so often because my paradigm does takes me back there to, yeah, but like, I look at the numbers and look at the people that are in my team, or look at my house, look at the state of my house, or look at this relationship. Yes, yes, and it's the and that I choose to focus on now, not the what's right in front of me, because it's just so much a part of, the power of thought, the power of our mind, and what we focus on grows. So when I was focusing on that bank account, sure enough, it stayed looking really low, and I stayed low. My frequency stayed low. So, I guess in a nutshell, that's my evolution. Um, that's just realizing where my focus goes, energy flows, and I just choose to go higher and bigger.
So let's be a little specific here, because it's not like, oh, you were, just your bank account wasn't fat enough. The reality was that you were raising four children with a minister husband. And that's not a huge salary. Everybody knows that. and how you manage to manage that plus animals, um, plus, the part-time jobs you could get and all of that. I mean, it was a reality. It was a reality. Your situation, you did not have any time. You did not have any extra cash. So it's not that those didn't exist. And it's the and. Yes, exactly. My favorite phrase. So it was we were talking a little bit about scarcity mentality, and it's very important here where how we use our language. So when we say things like I want this or I need this, the energy in the words want and need actually attach you to being in want, being in need. As opposed to, and that can stick you in there, right? Stick you into I am in want, I am in need, as opposed to something like, I welcome the opportunity to, I welcome the experience, I wish to feel the adventure of, you fill in the blanks. And what that does is that starts to open the clear locked cell that that is there. We can't tell it's there until you start pinging against it and go, oh my gosh, let's open that up with my language and my visioning and see if we can make something else happen, bring in possibility for something else to fall in. And that little shift right there just is gigantic. It's little and it's significant. And I've noticed over the years, Cheri, doing this personal development, I've seen so many small shifts along the way, especially in your language. And instead of saying I'm so confused or that doesn't make sense or all of those things, now you say I wish to understand. And what's amazing is you find yourself understanding.
Right. The language is so I'm so glad you brought that up because that has been a huge shift for me. It totally changes my energy and the focus, right? Because you're
Yes.
focusing on the possibility, as you said, rather than the lack. And when I say, or whenever anyone says I want, that comes from lack. Want means you don't have. It's not there. So let's not like put that out there, right? Let's focus on the opportunity. And another thing, I don't know if any of you are familiar with this book, but this has been a really great book for me, Conscious Language. Um, and he talks about this is by Robert Tennyson Stevens. He talks about the words I am and that was huge for me. Those two words together, I don't know where you all live, spiritually, but I do feel very passionately that those two words carry with them our higher power. That's what our higher power is called. I am. So when we say things like, I am tired, oh, right? We just put all of that energy into tiredness. So instead of I am tired, I have so much energy. I have just enough energy for today, or I have more than enough energy for today, right? I am looking forward to this day that I will complete with all the energy I need, or whatever. But it's changing the words are so important because that changes our frequency.
That's right. The words have resonance, and sound has resonance. Sound changes everything. So um yeah, the other thing is that, Cheri, when not too many years back, you were still kind of hustling together, teaching theater, teaching dance, also being in shows. I mean, doing a lot of things. Like I could never figure out. I mean, it helped that your parents lived there, but I could never figure out how she could be in a show. Like I I couldn't be in a show. Well, I directed a few shows, but my kids were in them. So, I knew where they were. So anyway, how you juggled all that, I'll never understand. But um there came a time when you wished for more abundance and didn't see how you could fit it in with your schedule. And what was required was a real leap of faith to divest yourself of these little patchwork quilt jobs in order to pour yourself into your passion, which was the oils, and to build a business all by yourself. And I mean, you had a lot of mentors, you had people, because Young Living is very supportive that way. And you just get in the pool and there's a lot of material to work with. That leap of faith is another piece of this puzzle. And I remember you saying your goal was to replace the income that you had with the teaching with Young Living in, I think it was a year,
Mhm.
and you did it, and you
Yes.
did.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I forgot that. Oh my
That's what friends
goodness.
are for.
Thank you so much. I was very, very helpful to be reminded of that. But can I just say everything that you just brought up? Thank you so much because I had forgotten all of that. One thing that I would like to share about when you so what I was wanting cancel delete want. I was choosing to find ways to do more work with my entrepreneur business, and it wasn't working very well, and I was very scattered. I was having a lot to do. Well, right around that time, both of my parents got very ill. They ended up having dementia. I'm an only child. There was a lot of demand on me for them, and I started faltering, like, and dropping. I really had reached a place where I couldn't juggle anymore. There were just too many balls. And I didn't know what to do. And what's very interesting is that my husband, Billy, said to me, perhaps it's time to stop teaching at the theater. You've been wanting to spend more time on your business. Maybe this is the time. And I looked at him like he had two heads. And I thought, what? What? The theater is my life. What are you talking about? I've worked for there for 15 years. It's my home. It's my second home. Like, I couldn't even believe he said that. I was affronted. And that's what's this has been a pattern. I guess you might say I'm a little stubborn, but things come to me like that. Like it wasn't a gentle realization, like, oh yes, I'm going to ease into this. Thank you so much for sharing. No, it's like pong, pong. That's how I'm taught, right? And I held that grudge for like, just a few days. And then all of a sudden I went, oh my goodness, he could be on to something. And yes, it was a challenge to release, right? A lot of it was ego though, so there's no need to keep that going. But it was time. And so that gave way. But again, I I think so much of this, even from the beginning, when Hope was planting all these things that I didn't even know were getting planted and other people were putting things in, I think things go in and you're not aware. Um, because I have said things out loud before and not realized I was actually manifesting. Right? Like because I didn't know what manifesting was, and I didn't really know that that was a thing. But I was doing it, and it was happening. And it happened just this year. I've been teaching in a dance studio for 25 years, almost 30 years probably. And I've been saying for the past 5 years, maybe it's time, maybe they need a little younger dance teacher. And I knew that that would free up my time. Well, it happened this year. And my first impulse was like, they don't want me anymore. What? And then I went, oh, right. Wait, right. Oh, right. You asked for this. Oh, right. Thank you. Okay. It's all working good. So it's funny how it's almost like it happens whether I want it or, well, I mean, I do want it. Like, that's the thing. The universe knows what we truly want. And that's another thing that has been so important to me because I am a very I like to know what's going to happen next, right? And so that was my stickler. That was tough for me to let go, to allow, because I would have dreams and goals, and I thought, okay, great. Now, how do I achieve it? I have to do A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Oh, but I can't do that. I can't do that because of this. And I can't do. Oh, okay, well, forget it. Forget that dream because I don't know how to do it. And that's been part of the process that I have learned that it's not up to us to know how. It's just up to us to do the dreaming and to have the passion and the purpose. And and that's been a huge shift for me to let go of the details
Mm.
and let someone else worry about that. Right?
Beautifully, beautifully put. That is so beautiful. And you're not alone. I mean, look, we're all we all would love to control our lives, you know. We'd like to have control over every little step. And learning to actually it feels like letting go, but in a sense you're letting go to be in partnership with your higher self, with the universe, with the pieces that are on your side and want to work with you. And once you realize it's just letting go to take another hand and do this in concert.
Mm.
So I thought we'd talk a little bit about manifestation because um, you know, we've been inundated over the last 3 decades at least with ever since The Secret came out, we've been inundated with a lot of people teaching how to manifest things, and some of these work better than others. Some of the methods work better than others, and it can leave a person disappointed if they've done the step by step like you just described. They've done the step by step of how to manifest, and then it hasn't happened. So that can leave a person bitter and then never want to try again. So I thought that I would talk a little bit about how I learned to manifest when I was at Findhorn in the 70s. And back then, no, I never heard about manifestation, but they taught the law of manifestation among other things that they taught us. And how they taught it was very, very simple, and which I love. And basically the idea is you formulate as specifically as possible what it is you desire to experience, the person you wish to desire, the job you wish to desire. I put different, I mean, like apartments, parking spaces, cars, or one time I lost a red sweater that I really loved. So I put my red sweater in there. Okay. And imagine that it's a boomerang. So you put all of it into a boomerang and you send it out to the universe and you say, this is what I wish to experience. And then you let go of the boomerang, let it fly, and you say thank you. And you don't say thank you because it might happen. You say thank you because you know it will happen. And then you drop it. You don't put in a second order, a third order, a fourth order. The chef has gotten your ticket and is going to cook it up and will deliver it in the perfect time. All you have to do now is to become a mighty receptor. So I was saying to Kim earlier, it's like you have those little My Favorite Martian antennae that go up, and you got a lot of them, and they're all waving around, not in a way that's taking your focus. It's more that there's an awareness because the boomerang went out and it might not come back for 3 weeks or a year, but your antennae are up because you sent a boomerang out so that when it comes, your antennae know it. They recognize it. They go, there it is. So, like I said, I did this with a red sweater once, and I sent the boomerang out. And I don't know, it was probably a couple of years later. This was not an urgent thing that I have this dumb red sweater back. So I let it go. I forgot about it. And I was walking by this store. I think I was in New York, and it was one of those stores you have to walk down the steps to. And it was like I don't know, a free for all in there. And there were piles of clothes on tables, and people were just pulling at things, and they were all knotted up, and I don't know, it was some kind of bargain bazaar. I don't know what it was, but I was compelled to go to this one table where there were sweaters all tied up in a thing, and I just kept going and going. I didn't know why I was there. I didn't know. And then I see this little tiny bit of red, and my receptors go bingo, and I start pulling, and I start pulling the exact same red sweater. Exact. And that's a little God wink time. That's a little, aha, we got you. Took a while, but we got you. So that's a really silly example, but I've done it ever since. I don't do it so much anymore. It's interesting. But I did it a lot when I needed something, especially when I needed something like an apartment or even a partner. Um, there's one added element that since Fintorn has come in through other teachers, and I'll just share that with you in case you find that it's helpful. And that is that when you've concocted your list of what it is you want, you take a moment and close your eyes and visualize yourself having it, or the person, or whatever it is, and allow that to permeate your heart so that your emotions get engaged and you feel the joy, the pleasure, the whatever it is, the fun that you would feel when this thing comes into your life. And then you send the boomerang. So that's the only piece that Fintorn didn't teach, but I've learned since, especially if it's something very, very heartfelt, very emotional. So,
Have you seen that YouTube video where Oprah talks to Jim Carrey about his manifesting his first million? It's fascinating. Anyway, it's a very short, you can, but it's fast. But
yes,
the final, I love it because at the very end, she's like, so you manifested this, right? Like you just saw yourself, getting this $1 million by this certain day. And it happened. He goes, yeah, well, yeah, but you just manifest and then go eat a bologna sandwich. Right. I was like, yeah, right. But I think that feeling thing is so key because that has been part of my training as well, Hope, is that we can say all we want, like, I want to be on Broadway, right? I want to be a Broadway actress. Oh, I can see myself there. And like, I'm able to help all these people. I'm bringing joy into their lives. And it's wonderful. And that's me. I see myself. I feel it, right? And if somewhere in there's something in me that doesn't feel like I can cut it or is afraid of, oh my gosh, what if that really happens? What would happen? Oh my gosh, then some of my friends might not be my friends anymore. Or then people might want to be my friends who aren't really my friends. Or, and then all these things, and those are the feelings, and those can get in the way.
yeah,
So I totally agree. The feelings are so important. It's just again an awareness of, are we resonating emotionally with our vision,
right.
because that is so important. The thoughts and then the feelings. I follow Bob Proctor, and he always talks about the stick man, or the stick person, I like to refer. But it's, you've got your subconscious, which are the thought, I mean, your conscious mind, and then the subconscious mind, which are your feelings, and then it goes into your actions, and then that goes into your results. Right. So if you don't have the results you want and you think you're manifesting something, you're like, why didn't this happen? I wanted it. And I really thought, then work it backwards.
Yeah.
That's, I think that's a really great, work it backwards. What were my actions? What actions did I take? Like Jim Carrey says, did I go eat a bologna sandwich? Or was I taking the proper actions, acting as if this was already mine and showing up? I, I just want to share just a really quick thing that happened yesterday, because to me, this is what it's about. I had an eye doctor appointment at 7:30 in the morning, and I got dressed. I got dressed as I do every day, kind of like this. I had the jewelry on, I had the makeup on, I had the clothes on. I wasn't in my sweatpants. I got dressed. And so as I was leaving, the eye doctor says to me, "So, where are you going from here? Are you going to work?" And I said, "Yes, I am, in my home. I work out of my home." And she looked at me and she goes, "And you dress like that?" I'm like, "You bet. I show up." Right? And I think it's the same thing. Like, we've got to show up for whatever our vision and whatever it is we want. We got to show up and feel it. Like Hope said, I love that. Visualization is so important, and getting those emotions to marry and mesh with that vision. Yeah.
But I'll tell you something. I love that, Sherry. I could probably take a page out of your notebook there, because I don't always show up
Well,
in
it's
my
different for everybody. And I'm not saying that I'm not
no,
saying
but
that's,
it's great. It's so great, and I'm realizing, okay, I could probably do a little more of that. Um, but I want to just mention that the reason that Findhorn taught this to everybody is because that's how they came into fruition. They had no money. They had all they had was a bunch of sand, and they planted a garden there with seaweed and this and that they were, told to do through their guidance. But they didn't have anything else. And what they would do was they were taught through spirit to ask for what they needed, and they would literally ask for 427 pounds and 2 pence, something like that, because we have to pay this bill. And and they would ask for it, and it would show up exactly in the mail. We don't have any eggs, but we do have wood. And somebody would come along and say, "Oh, I've got a bunch of eggs, do you have any wood?" And they would trade. I mean, it happened over and over and over. This is what I mean by the partnership, that the universe wants to conspires to work with us if we let it in. If we say, "Yes, please be my pal, be my partner, and I'm going to trust you, that I'm going to trust that you have my back." Now, I want to follow up with what you said about Jim Carrey, and that was my next thing to say, is that we do need to take at least one step of action. That is a signal to who we're working with that we're serious, that we mean it, that we can't just sit down and have bonbons and wait for things to fall on our heads. We need to take an action. So I agree totally with Bob, and it's a dance. It really is a dance. Um, so what happens? Okay, manifestation is great, but we also want to talk about abundance, and how, when, let's say, one of these things that we've asked for drops in our lap, we recognize it. Boing. This is what I asked for dropping in my lap. And how we respond, of course, is in deep gratitude and recognition that there's a relay thing happening here. And and that pleasure, that joy of, "Oh my gosh, this is almost too much for me to believe, yet it happened," starts to crack us open to extend this idea of infinite abundance to everything, to every aspect of our lives. It doesn't mean we have to get busy manifesting in every aspect of our lives, but it brings in this wonder. And that makes every aspect of our lives more beautiful, more potent, and more life filled. So then we go, well, where else in my life, uh, is there lack? Because there's some pretty good quadrants of my life, but then there are some others that maybe aren't as in balance with those. And just the act of recognizing this, the things that are abundant, and we can apply that focus and that awareness to the things that maybe we perceived as not being abundant. All of a sudden things start to look, those things that weren't quite as strong start to look more abundant. It kind of like it spreads, it can flow out into all the areas. And if let's say, look, we were all locked down, we were all kept inside with sometimes no one, sometimes one or two people. We all were in lack in that way. And isn't it amazing how this technology that we're using right now just blew up and made us able to at least be face to face in a little square, you know? I mean, this has been unbelievable. And yes, there has been a lack of physical contact, but the abundance, I've met so many people through this process that I would never have met before, and gotten to know you and gotten to share, this wild journey we've been on in the last 18 months. So I don't know. I think abundance, having an abundant mindset is really, well, Sherry, I want you to chime in on this. I won't say what it is. You talk first because it's you're the guest.
Well, one thing that I loved what you said, everything that comes to us is neutral, and that's what I did not understand. That was a huge piece of my evolution. I thought everything that came to me had something attached, like an emotion was already attached. Like when someone comes in distress and like, oh my gosh, my husband just left me and blah blah blah. Immediately I would go into an emotional state and vibrate there. And I'm like, oh, that's just horrible. Oh my gosh, right? Okay, the information itself is neutral. Everything is neutral. My bank account is neutral. This situation we're in the world is neutral. It comes to us neutral. We decide. We get to choose what we do with that information. And that to me is when the abundance comes in. Like, are you going to choose like faith or fear? You can't have both. Which how are you going to accept what's coming to you? And
Mhm.
when you choose faith, I believe when you choose faith, that's the abundant route. That's when you start seeing things differently. And yeah, I just I've forgotten what you were asking, but I just
Oh,
knew I
well,
wanted to say that.
that was no, that was so great. That was so beautiful. I'm just talking about, you basically said it,
Okay.
what an abundant lifestyle looks like, sounds like, feels like. What is the how do we maintain it? But
Mhm.
I mean, just what
Mhm.
you just basically summarized it
Yeah.
very
Yes, and right. Yes, and um, so um, there's a lot going on, and I know that every single one of us has been touched in some way, in some that our heart has hurt in some way in the past year. And so where do you find abundance there? Like, how do you find the abundance when something that you would view as very sad or tragic? And um, for me, what it's again, it's just always the choice. And how do we do that? I tell you what, I can tell a difference in where my mind starts going and what I start letting in when I don't do my daily, uh, personal development stuff. When I start, like, if I turn on the TV instead of, getting back here and reading my book or whatever, I feel like there is a bit of ownership, right? That we must take if we want this abundant life. We have to show up. We have to show up in whatever that looks like to you. But it is that step. It is that choice. We get to choose. And I mean, my goodness gracious. I mean, this morning I woke up and oh, that's another thing I did want to mention. I feel it's so important that the first thing we do when our feet hit the ground in the morning is we figure out where our frequency is before we get out of bed. Get it right. And right is probably not the word to use, because right or wrong, but you want what's going to be most beneficial for you is if you're in a higher frequency, right? So um so how do we do that? This morning I woke up, I was not in a high frequency. I wasn't. I could feel it. I was like, I don't want to get up. And there's stuff going on with my doggy that's not making me happy. And it felt heavy. It felt heavy. So yes, what do you do? And how do you do that? And I got to be honest, it took me a while to get out of that, and it took work. I had to choose, because I it's so easy to just start that spiral, right? It's so easy to, because that's our condition. That's what we're used to doing, to
Mhm.
just allow that to flow and to that happen. But but every decision I made, I was conscious of, okay, so what can I do? Okay, I'm going to listen to some music. Okay, what can I do? I can apply my abundance oil. What can I do? I can go read something. What can I do? Let's continue to raise. I can go drink a lot of water. I can go eat something healthy. I can fill my body with good stuff. I can go for a walk. I can move my body. Like, all those things raise my frequency and, allow me to make more, make more room for abundance.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful, Cher. And so let's segue into talking about the abundance oil.
So when you apply, this is a roller ball. And whenever you want your abundance, this is a very, very high frequency oil. That's the neat thing about essential oils. It goes so well with what Hope is talking about, raising our frequency. There are some oils that, I mean, I'm not really sciencey, so numbers don't stick in my head very much, but there is a number of, of what your frequency is when you're in dis-ease, right? And it's obviously a very low number. And then there's numbers of the frequency level of some of these oils, and they're super, super high. So what happens when you're in dis-ease or you're in disharmony or whatever? When you use these oils, they can actually raise your frequency and get you to that place of abundance.
So
So
share, let's just talk about the oils in particular and what so yeah essential oils are have been harvested in a particular way at a particular time in order to capture the essence of the plants and to capture their healing abilities. Now, this is how medicine was done for centuries and centuries and centuries until just the last one. And so it's rediscovered. Um, Maybe you can tell the story about Gary Young, but Gary Young is the man who started Young Living Oils. He had well, maybe I'll just say he was in a wheelchair. He was told he wasn't supposed to live, et cetera, et cetera. And basically, he went around the world. He went to indigenous people and he collected growing styles and harvesting styles and all the information about how to the best way to get the oils out of the plants. P.S. He got out of a wheelchair, he got married, he had children, and created this amazing company. So these oils literally healed him, and then he brought them to the world. And they have a frequency, as Sherry was saying. This is this can be measured electrically. Okay, so the oils, usually you put them in your hand, 1 or 2 drops, and you stir it up a little. That friction gets the frequency to come full, and then you put it on your body, sometimes different places that you can put it. um, and it does, and you smell it like Sherry just did. It crosses the blood brain barrier in the brain, and the oils work on a variety of levels. They work both aromatherapeutically, which is this, and that change shifts you immediately, and then they work through the bloodstream. They are not oily on the skin. when I first got introduced to these, and I'm going to tell you a funny story about that. But when I first got introduced to these, I did not like smelly things. I'm not a like, don't give me a scented candle. Like, that's not my thing. And I didn't like oily textures on my skin. Well, this stuff smells so clean. I love just about every oil. I can't think of what this the one I picked up is vetiver, and that's the one that doesn't smell too good, but it's really good for ADD. So anyway, and they don't leave an oily residue on your skin at all. They're immediately absorbed. I use them medicinally. I use them harmonically, spiritually. I use them on for so many things. They can be put into the room to just bring the whole frequency of the room up through a whatchamacallit,
Diffuser.
diffuser. Thank you. And they can go in your car, they can go anywhere. Anyway, they're fantastic. We're going to talk about this just a little bit. I'll tell you the funny story. And so that you understand what this gift is about. This is a beautiful, generous offering from Cheri. I mean, like really generous. So back in 1997, I went to New York for basically 24 hours to see our mutual friend in a play. And we were going to go, we were staying on the Upper West Side. She was doing a Shakespeare in the Park, King Henry VIII. And she was talking about how she was going to do this scene as Catherine of Aragon, Queen of Spain, married to Henry. This was when the whole Church of England, the Catholic Church, was coming to a head, and Anne Boleyn came in, and Henry got the Church of England, and all that kind of stuff happened. But first, in order to get Anne, he had to somehow get rid of his 12-year relationship with his wife. And so she ended up, in real life, this is true, she went prostrate on the floor in court, which queens didn't do. Queens don't get on the floor, but she was begging him to not do this, not do an annulment, not ask for this dissolution of marriage. They had a child, after all, Mary. Anyway, so our friend was talking to me about how to do this prostrate thing on her knees, on blah, blah, blah. And we were chatting about it. And then we decided we would get some lunch and go sit in the park because it was a beautiful day and have some lunch. Okay, so we're chatting about that. And right before we left the apartment, she said, "Oh, just a minute." And she ran into the bedroom. She comes out. She's got all these little bottles in her hand. I said, "What are those?" She said, "Never mind. I'm just going to put them on you." And she put on about 7 different oils on me. And the last one went on the crown of my head. And there were all these smells, and I didn't mind them, but there were just so many, whatever. So we go out the door, and we're about halfway down the block between West End and Broadway. It's a long block. And we started talking about the play again. And she said, "Well, this play is actually a celebration of Elizabeth's birth." Elizabeth was born to Henry and Anne Boleyn. And at that moment, I had what I now understand is a spiritual psychic break. My body started to keen, which is, if you don't know what that is a grieve at a very high-pitched tone. This high-pitched tone came out of my mouth involuntarily. I was doubled over in the worst grief I've ever felt in my lifetime, and keening. And a little part of me was over here going, "What are you doing?" But I couldn't control it. And it took me about 10 minutes to get myself back together. I had no idea what on earth had just happened. So I calmed down finally, and we went and we ate our lunch, and then we went back to the apartment, and our friend disappeared into the bedroom. And then I heard this, "Oh, come out of the bedroom." And she comes out, and she's got this little book. And she said, "Well, first of all, You're not supposed to put 7 oils on at the same time. You're supposed to wait like half an hour or an hour in between. And also, I looked up what the one was that was on your head, and it's called Three Wise Men. And it says here in the book, it's for unlocking deep grief in the DNA. And I said, thank you so much for telling me. But
Now,
what
let me just interject that none of this is going to happen to you guys.
no, no,
Do
you're
not
not going to
fear.
put
Do not fear.
you're
Right.
not going to put three wise men on your head,
No,
but
no.
it is a demonstration that they work. They
Yeah,
work. And
they're
it
powerful.
just so happens there is a story with me and that story of Henry VIII. So, but I didn't, it was not revealed yet, but they work and they do have a frequency. And I have been, all these bottles up here, can you see them all? There are 2 levels of them. I have been using these oils ever since. So that's my ringing endorsement of them. And the reason we're getting together tonight is not to try to sell you oils, but if you do want to, they are now a part of my wellness page. And what will happen is if you go there, you'll see Young Living. And when you click the learn more button or whatever it says, you will be taken to Cheri's website, and her phone number is there. And from there on, you can just deal directly with Cheri. She knows so much about them. She knows way more about them than I do at this point. And I ask her, what should I take? And it just seemed to fit and dovetail so beautifully with the theme this month because of Cheri's journey and the changes that I have witnessed in her over the last 40 years are really remarkable. I mean, Cheri, you expressed yourself so beautifully tonight, really inspirationally, and abundance, by the way, smells fantastic.
Can I tell you, can I tell them what's in it?
Yes, please do. And did you read the affirmation?
Oh, I did not. Would you
Okay.
like to hear the affirmations?
Yes.
Okay. I am surrounded by abundance. I welcome all good gifts. I am positively impacting others. I am open to unlimited abundance. I have all I need and more. So when you're saying those, I love to I use abundance every single day. It's really one of my favorite oils. And I put it on my neck, I put it on my chest. I actually have a great story of abundance oil and finance oil, which is we really don't carry anymore, and Verizon. Whenever I go to Verizon, I load up on this stuff. I mean, it's helped, believe me. But what is in abundance? Some of these you guys will be familiar with the scent just when I say the word, and some might not be as familiar, although most of them probably are. Orange, which is happy, happy, right? Frankincense, highly spiritual and healing. Patchouli, beautiful. Clove, ginger, myrrh, cinnamon, and black spruce.
Wow.
So those are amazing. I mean, like myrrh and frankincense are, like super spiritual oils, very, very high frequency, very good emotional. And that's another thing I wanted to point out what Hope was saying about them being so thin. They're so thin, and that's what's so great. That's why they're not oily, right? And they go right into your skin and they go right to work. They're so quick acting
Yeah.
because they're so thin, they go right in. And also because they're thin, when you're inhaling, when you're inhaling them, they go right in, they can actually pass the blood-brain barrier,
Yeah.
which makes them so helpful in dealing with an emotional issues because they can actually get to your hypothalamus, whatever that thing is called, where all your emotional, like all your memories are stored back there. And you can actually help resolve and heal old memories and create new memories. And they're very, very powerful. So yeah. And oh, I also wanted to point out that what Hope was saying about how Young Living harvest. I mean, it's really incredible. They have a seed to seal thing, which, you can see on my website. It's really incredible. But I just wanted to share, not all essential oils are harvested that way. And
Right.
that's why it's so important to know where your oils come from. And that's why I'm happy to educate on in any way, because really people who are interested in using essential oils on their health journey are interested in natural wellness, right? And so many of the oils out there are adulterated with chemicals and solvents. That is not going to help your health journey. So
And
you just
you're
need to be.
absolutely right. I wrote that on my page because I have tried other oils
Mhm.
and I just come right back to Young Living because I can depend on that frequency to be there no matter what. No matter what. And I want to say two things. One is that uh, there is an oil they have called Digize, and it is for when you have an upset stomach or gas. And that stuff, am never without it because it solves those. If you get burps or if you get a gas in your tummy, it's done in like in 5 minutes. It's so fast. So that's speaking to the speed of it. And the other thing is about this abundance, when we have the theme, it's not just the theme of abundance, it's the theme of spread infinite abundance. Our jobs are to be broadcasting these themes, right? So having this oil is going to help that happen. I mean, that's the goal. Well, I'm so happy that you came tonight.
Me
And
too. Thank you all for coming.
so, okay, I guess we are fini.
Okay.
Thank you, Hope.
Thank
Thank you
Good
for
you.
having
night.
me.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Cheri.
everyone.